Hello plant lovers, it is Matthew in Melbourne welcoming you back to my channel. Thank you very much for finding me. If you're new here, I grow cold, cool, intermediate orchids here in Melbourne, Australia without a greenhouse or grow lights or humidifiers, just me and them inside or outside or not at all. So plant lovers, if that is your bag, do hit subscribe. I post every week on a Friday narrating my continuing amateur adventures growing orchids here in Melbourne. And as you can see, plant lovers, it is mid-autumn and there are some things in bloom. So I thought, why not just have a quick run through everything that's in bloom now, mid-autumn here in Australia. I've made care instruction videos for most of these plants, so it's really just a bit of a catch-up in terms of what I may have learned since I made that video, or just to show you the incredible growth of some of these plants and the results of a repotting experiment with some others. So, are you sitting comfortably? Let's begin. So the first cab off the rank is this wonderful Paphiopedilum, and it is called Duo de Citron, and it is the most wonderful butter yellow, as you can see. And the great thing about this plant is that it is sequential, and I will show you on the plant, but it has had 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is the 5th flower. So as one flower goes over, the next bud starts to open. So sometimes you'll get 2 on the stem at the same time, but often just 1. But it is the most beautiful, vibrant yellow. Now this has been in many a video of mine. Needless to say, Paphiopedilum basic care. They are slow growers. This one is a 2-year cycle to bloom, but the first flower opened in October. It is now April. Do the maths, plant lovers. You get amazing bang for buck from sequential orchids. So Paphiopedilum Duo de Citron is the first of our flowers in bloom in autumn, but it's been in bloom since spring. Next cab off the rank is this wonderful phal. Now just look at that pink center to the flowers. Aren't they wonderful? Now this plant is one that I bought at Christmas 2 years ago when I went to Collector's Corner. And I just loved the vibrant magenta of that center part of the flower. And it was in bloom. And as with many phals, you always come to that decision of when the last flower has dropped, do I snip the spike or do I not? So I've experimented with a few and I've made videos about that. But this one really didn't give me the option because it started to produce this secondary spike of blooms almost immediately, which means I also never got a chance to repot it. So it's still in its sphagnum and plastic sheath from when I bought it, because it's basically been in continual bloom for over a year. So there you go, bang for buck. Now, sometimes the flower spike on the phal will just start to wither and die. Fine, chop it down. Sometimes they'll want to respike. Fine, let it go if you want to. You can also, though, cut that off if you don't want a long leggy spike, because that is the issue. Sometimes if you let them bloom, you end up with very long leggy flower spikes on these hybrid phals. So either way, it doesn't really matter. They're going to be stimulated into flowering at the change of the season from warm to cool weather. So when the temperature drops in autumn, you tend to get the triggering of the flower spikes. But the reblooming from an existing spike can occur continually. So that's not season-based. Anyway, that is my phal, which I just love. And I'm so happy that has been in bloom for quite some time. Okay, next cab off the rank. Look at that. That is HOLCOGLOSSUM KIMBALLIANUM. Now I've made a video about this, made a few actually about HOLCOGLOSSUMs, because I've discovered they are perfect for my climate. They're a reasonably high altitude plant from the Himalayas, so many countries, HOLCOGLOSSUM, different species across northern India, southern China, northern Vietnam, that sort of band of the lower parts of the Himalaya across that part of Asia. You find many HOLCOGLOSSUM, and they just seem to do well in Melbourne. Don't mind our dry hot summers. I water them all the time, less in winter, but I don't let them dry out completely. And it is autumn now, and look at that flower spike. Isn't that stunning? Second year of flowering for this plant for me. The plant's growing enormously, as you can see, and the little plantlet at the base of the plant is growing quite happily. Hopefully that will soon be old enough to bloom, so I might get multiple spikes. But I love HOLCOGLOSSUM. So if you're in a climate like mine, do have a look at these and the Vandas that have been crossed with HOLCOGLOSSUM, because those hybrids also seem to have inherited the trait to tolerate cool winter nighttime minimums. So HOLCOGLOSSUM KIMBALLIANUM, sensational flower, the most beautiful combination, and it's not fragrant, even though it looks as though it should be. Okay, we're moving through the list. The next one is something that I've recently just bought. It is another Miltonia, and this one is called Goodale Moya Golden Wonder. There you go. And we'll get to the reason why, which is just here. I finally figured out what Miltonia is like for my climate. So just look at that. I just adore the colors of that one. And I recently bought this from an orchid fair, which is why you should join your local orchid groups, plant lovers, because they always have plant sales. So this is where I got that one from. It was in spike when I bought it, so I'm taking no credit for that, but I just adore the color. And I guess that is a natural segue to this Miltonia Guanabara. Now, you may well remember that I made a repotting video about this because I decided to pot it in this bonsai dish. And look, we have got 3 flower spikes all doing their thing. We have also, unfortunately, got a bit of a pesty infestation. I just didn't keep my eye on it, so it's been sprayed anyway. But look, happy as Larry, the flowers are gorgeous, and Guanabara does have a fragrance that smells like coriander or cilantro to our North American friends. Look at that, isn't it gorgeous? But what I'm most happy about is that it's doing exactly what I wanted in this pot, in that it is filling it and it is covered in flowers. They all still haven't really opened yet, a bit early for it, but I wanted to show you nonetheless that that repotting experiment worked. Next cab off the rank is this. Look at that. This is Coelogyne Janine Banks, and I've made a video about this. A light sort of jonquilly fragrance. Look at those flowers though. Aren't they beautiful with that golden interior on the creamy white flower? Just stunning. Gorgeous fragrance. Unfortunately, it's a bit of nibbling on this, and in fact I lost a whole bud to some kind of munching caterpillar thing. One of the prices you pay for growing orchids outside is that there are insects, but you know, I figure that's the way of the world, isn't it? I mean, the insects have a right to munch your orchids if they wish, but I just wish they didn't. So Coelogyne Janine Banks, I've made a video about this before. It's in bloom now. It's got one fabulous spike, and it has got another spike just emerging here. So the great thing is that when this spike goes over, I'm going to have another one to take its place, which is gorgeous. Stunning. Again, Coelogynes and HOLCOGLOSSUM are in exactly the same spot for me outside. And if you watch the care videos for both of these, you'll see exactly where they are outside. They are hung on a sort of lattice fence, so they're getting plenty of air movement, and I water them basically all year. Tends to be a little less in winter, but Coelogynes don't like to dry out, and Coelogyne cristata particularly does need water all winter, otherwise you won't get any blooms or the spikes will blast. And Rachel from Gardening Duensa agrees with me on that. We did a collaboration video and we both came to that conclusion ourselves, even though all the literature tells you Coelogyne cristata wants a dry winter. It doesn't. Anyway, Janine Banks, similar conditions, HOLCOGLOSSUM grown in the same area. So if you can grow Coelogynes, you can grow HOLCOGLOSSUM. If you can grow HOLCOGLOSSUM, you can grow Coelogynes. Some Coelogynes. There are some tropical ones that like warm weather. These are the cooler ones which come from a similar part of the world as the HOLCOGLOSSUMs. And so, plant lovers, last but not least is this fantastic Dendrobium. Look at that. And I'm sure you all know what it is. Yes, it is Dendrobium VICTORIAE-REGINAE, and it is blue bouquet. Look at that. I know everyone says they're blue. They're not. They're mauve. You can get, I think, well, anyway, let's not get into that. But look at the colors. Now, this Dendrobium has been in constant flower for months. Yeah, I can't believe it. I've obviously got the sweet spot for it. Now, I've made a care video for this. That video shows you exactly where it is. It's hanging in a very tasteful macrame basket, but getting more light than you would perhaps think, because I had heard that Reginae was more of a lower light Dendrobium. Mine didn't bloom. The minute I moved it into a brighter light area, bing, Yeah, maybe that was also to do with the age of the plant. It may have been a coincidence, but it's happy as Larry and has not stopped flowering. So what we can see is that there are buds still forming all over the branch, which is wonderful. It doesn't really take long for the mature cane to start to bloom. So this one will probably bloom very soon, I guess. The other thing, obviously, with this dendrobium is that it can continually bloom from the same stem. So even if your cane, like this one, is leafless, don't think it's dead and cut it off, because this one has bloomed multiple times from this leafless cane. And the other thing is perhaps to notice, as the flowers are opening, they are really quite light, and as the flowers age, they get darker. But it's beautiful. Now this cane, for example, has another little cluster of buds appearing. These ones have been open now for weeks, and on this cane as well, we have got, I don't know, innumerable flowers which have been open for quite some time. And this one that is just opening, we've got another cluster of buds forming as well. So kind of blooming all the time and kind of successive. So I'm trying to think when it wasn't in flower, which is amazing, isn't it? So again, if you have got similar conditions that can take HOLCOGLOSSUM or COELOGYNES, then you can certainly grow Dendrobium VICTORIA-REGINAE, because it is so rewarding and so easy. I do water it all year. It doesn't dry out. I do ease it off a bit in winter, but I don't stop watering. But as you can see, perhaps at the top there, we have another new growth, another new cane emerging. These are the ones that are maturing. So as it's growing, you need to feed and fertilize it and water it. If it's not growing, then you could really ease up, certainly on the fertilizer. But this thing just seems to keep going all year. And then last but not least, look at this ONCIDIUM. Look at that. Isn't it stunning? Oh my goodness. And look at the flower. Now, it is a no ID ONCIDIUM. I bought it this week. But what I loved was sort of the burgundy mahogany color with the yellow. Now, I haven't really investigated to see if I can find out the name for it. I'll have a Google around and see if I can. But a very, very, very vigorous and healthy plant. And as it was in bloom, and as it's a color of ONCIDIUM I don't have, even though I have enough ONCIDIUMs to sink the Titanic twice, I couldn't resist it. And as we're talking of things in bloom, I'm going to be very clever with the camera. And can you see there, this is my wonderful Amazonian lily. Isn't that beautiful? It flowers at this time of year in autumn every year. And its Latin name is Eucharis grandiflora. It is a naturally occurring hybrid of two Amazon lilies. And it is so easy. It's basically a house plant. I just leave it up on that shelf. You've probably seen it as the backdrop to, oh look, if I tilt the camera, you'll be able to see it. There we go. It's been the backdrop to many of my videos, but there it is doing its thing. No fragrance, but it is so beautiful. Water it when you remember. Don't water it when you don't remember. It seems to love it. So there we are, plant lovers. Everything that is in bloom at the moment. How wonderful. And no fragrance from PAPHs, obviously. But so rewarding, isn't it? This is the whole point of growing orchids, I guess, is that you can have beautiful flowers really for most of the year. Depends where you are, but I have always got something in flower, I have to say. And whether you're growing things indoors or outdoors, there are usually things that you can find that are going to be blooming at some point throughout the yearly cycle. Well, plant lovers, I hope you've enjoyed this ramble through everything that is growing well for me. As I mentioned, there are care videos for most of these. I've linked them in the body of the film, but I'll also put them in the links below, along with all the names of the plants that I've mentioned, so you can have a good Google and see if it's available in your area. But plant lovers, from these flowering beauties and myself, until next time, thank you very much for watching. Take care wherever you are, and I hope this has inspired you to try things that might not have occurred to you before, or go out looking for things like HOLCOGLOSSUM that you didn't think you might be able to grow, because you can. I am not lazy, but I'm an easy orchid grower. I kind of just like things to do their thing. So all of these are pretty low maintenance. So if I can grow them, you can grow them. Anyway, plant lovers, until next time, thank you very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, take care.